Good year everyone, welcome to the first ever video of 2025, which is another video of your beloved Drawback chess speedrun. And without any further ado, let's get into today's content. Today we are climbing from 3600 to 3700 rating points, covering fire. You can only capture a piece if you could capture it two different ways. Absolutely impossible. Reveal drawback to opponent. E4. My opponent counter-revealed, vegan, you can't capture knights. Well, so that makes my knights invincible. But his entire board is practically invincible with correct plays, including the king. E5. Let's develop the knights. The best thing to do is to put the knights in the very middle of his board so he'll have a hard time at developing his pieces. Queen G5. Wow. My knight is attacking his queen, but I cannot capture due to my drawback. So queen on G5 is actually to stop my knight from advancing to G5. That is very smart, while also threatening queen takes G2, completely destroying my territory. G3 is kinda forced. Okay, this guy is very smart. I didn't even think about using a queen as a wall to stop the knight. I can already see we cannot win this game that easily. Knight F6. D4. He sacrificed his queen. Knight takes F2. Now I don't even know what to do. Queen D2. Okay, I guess a lonely knight won't be able to do much. But the more he captures, the fewer materials I have to capture his king. As mentioned in the drawback, I also need to have two different ways to capture his king to actually able to make the capture. Knight takes H1. D takes E5. Knight takes G3. E6. Bishop B4. C3. A lot of pieces controlling C3, no need to worry, he's gonna take that pawn. Knight E4. That is a fork, and since I'm currently up in pieces, we trade. Trades should theoretically be good for me, because my knights will eventually totally unstoppable, while his pieces struggle to checkmate my king. Knight takes G5. C takes B4. Knight takes E6. Queen E4. Knight C6. A3. The game went on for a lot more moves, and as expected I really struggled to attack his king, and then I blundered my queen. Resignation. This is not the first time I've gotten this drawback, and the same story repeats. I still cannot win the game due to the same reason. But we'll win the second game for sure. Warlord, at the start of move 12 and onwards, your king must not be on the first two ranks, or you lose. Hyper Super Omega Bong Cloud, let's go. Reveal drawback to opponent. B3. Okay, that is already very suspicious. With such a drawback that restricts my king like this, the best thing to do is obviously to just attack straight at where the king is. Maybe this will give me some info about his drawback. E5. Bishop B2. Bishop C5. Well, since it is practically very difficult to play the game with the king super exposed outside like that, our best plan is to just win the game super quickly while we can play the game like a normal person. G3. Another suspicious move. His drawback may have something to do with not moving the center pawns, or maybe not even moving the knights. Queen F6. He can move the knights. Knight H6. Bishop G2. Knight G4. 6 moves left. Castle. Queen H6. Going for H2, please take my pawn with the knight. Knight C3. D6. Knight D5. Aha. He's threatening to fork on C7, but that also drops the defense on the very critical E4 square. E4. Knight takes C7 check. Okay, that is actually also good for me, because as we only have 3 moves left, just in case we cannot make it in time, marching the king forward is not a bad option. Remember, we also need to spend one more move to physically capture the king. The game doesn't end with a checkmate, so 2 moves left is only just barely enough for a win. That is provided he plays right into my desiration. Didn't happen. A simple h3 would have totally destroyed me, but apparently all of his pawns cannot move, which is definitely not a real thing because that would be a total disaster. g5. It is move 11. Here we go. King to c6. Knight takes a8. G takes h4. d4. Aha. After all that time, he has finally moved a pawn, but sadly that pawn doesn't do anything. H takes g3. I'm sure I'm blundering some sort of checkmate right here, but this is totally expectable with a king that likes to hang out on his own. I'll just focus solely on my own attack. D takes c5. Queen takes h2. Checkmate in 1. Queen takes d6 check. Queen takes the king. Second game is a win. 1 win and 1 loss, it all comes down to the last game. Here we go. Eat your vegetables. You can't capture non-pawns until your opponent only has 4 pawns remaining. Absolutely impossible. Reveal drawback to opponent. d5. Apparently I have already lost a game to bishop b5 check. I cannot stop his bishop from taking my king. But provided there are a Brazilian ways for him to win the game, let us not care about that anymore, and just focus on capturing 4 pawns real fast before he can understand my drawback. Knight f3. c5. Preparing d4, attacking his pawns. He plays d4 himself, which is also good. C takes d4. What just happened? You won. Your opponent lost due to their drawback. Your opponent's drawback was hold them back. You lose if your opponent moves a pawn to your side of the board. Well, if that is the case, then e3 first move just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This guy totally deserves to lose. Drawback chess speed run today. 100% win rate.